Everyone, welcome to week 4. Um, right now, in the process of your course, you are preparing yourself to write your first and your last uh, long paper, your critical essay. And this lecture is just my way of telling you about what I expect from your work, which is nothing too scary and nothing too complicated. I have my Word document up here, but it really depends on what you prefer. If you prefer Google Docs, that is absolutely okay, and you can use that. Um, so just make sure that you're comfortable with, the application, whatever you're working with. So, as you probably have heard from your other professors, the most important part of a critical essay is what we call the argument or thesis. What that really means is that, the question, right? The question that you are asking your audience. And by your audience, I mean your readers, right? And it's not only enough to pose that question, but also you want to answer that question. So, first you have the question that is proposed to your audience somewhere in the beginning of your work, right? In your introduction. And then, the rest of the work is going to be you trying to an attempt, right, to answer that question. As you have probably, in this point in your college academic career, have experienced before, there seems to be a blueprint of what we need to do when we are trying to write a paper. That is perfectly fine. If you feel like you need a structure, you can go by specific structure that you have in mind, that being the introduction first, and then the body, and then a conclusion. That is absolutely fine, and you can do that. And if that's not something that's comfortable to you, I also encourage creative ways of looking at your structuring, your structure of your paper. So I would say do not get too hung up on what comes first, what comes next. As long as you, and that's the most important thing, follow a logical order of things, right? Where your readers can follow you along as you are making your point. You should be good. So what I really like to do when I'm writing a paper is that I kind of want to give my readers a little bit of an overview, right? A little bit of a, roadmap. We can call it a roadmap of what's going to happen in this paper. This being, in the very first couple of paragraphs, I'll tell them, here's a problem, here's a question, here's a thesis, right? And I am going to do this and this and this. And finally, I will get to, from point A, I'll get to point B, and that would be my conclusion. But, coming up with the roadmap at the beginning of your work is often a little bit of a struggle because you haven't really, a lot of the work is done through writing. So you don't really know where you're going to end up with this paper. So my suggestion for you is that do not start with the beginning. Actually, start with the very middle. Start writing about the evidence that you have, start writing about the body of the work, and then when you get to a good place where you feel like, okay, I'm actually getting somewhere here, you conclude your paper and then go back to write your overview, your introduction, your roadmap, whatever that you might want to call it. This will give you a fair shot at, um, writing a paper that is truly insightful and comprehensive. So sometimes you might have an argument in mind and you think this is going to work, but then so you're done with the roadmap, you've written the overview, but then you move to the body of the work and you're like, oh wait, no, actually I didn't consider this and that, so this will mess up my whole argument. I need to go back and start from the very top. So that would be a problem, right? And we don't want that. So what I want you to do is to start writing about your evidence. So this is my way of doing things. You're welcome to do, whatever works for you best. But here's my advice to you. Just step one, write about what you have found, right? Your evidence. You probably have some sort of claim in the back of your mind, but you're not maybe too sure about it. You're not sure if this makes sense or if this is a good argument. If you're really adding anything to the conversation by deciding on your argument. So I suggest that you start writing about what you actually have, what you have right now. Write about your evidence, what you have found, the connecting points. And this will take a bit of time, right? So when you want to write about your evidence, it's not going to happen all in one paragraph. In fact, if you write all the evidence in one paragraph, it might look very disorganized and boring because you'll be spending a lot of time there. So you might want to bracket things. So maybe you're writing about two different movies. So now you have two brackets, right? Movie 1, you also have movie 2, right? Imagine each bracket is multiple paragraphs. And then while you're talking about movie 1, you have all these different scenes that are coming into your mind. So you think, okay, maybe scene 1, then I have scene 2, and then scene 3. And you can't merge all those 3 scenes together. So maybe in talking about movie 1, you need about 3 paragraphs. Sometimes you might need a little bit more specific. You might want to be more specific than that. So maybe in scene 1, you want to talk about a certain character. So character A, right? And then, but in scene 1, you also have character B. So maybe you want to do that. Maybe in scene 2, you only are talking about character A. And maybe in scene 3, you're talking about character C and character B, right? So as you see, you can get as specific as you want, and that's often a good sign because it means that you are really zeroing in on something that is important to you. And then maybe the same thing happens for movie 2 where you go through different scenes, right? So you would maybe think about scene 1. Oops. You're thinking about scene 1, you're thinking about scene 2, and let's say scene 3 and scene 4. And then in scene 1, you're thinking about the setting. Or in scene 2, you're thinking about character A and character B. In scene 3, maybe you're only really thinking about, let's say, the props. That's the only thing that is, helping you with your argument. And in scene 4, you have all sorts of things. You have character C, you have setting, you have sound, you have techniques, It could be multiple things. So what I like to do is that I like to create these brackets for myself and think about each of these parts on their own, as a way to give myself a little bit of an organization system. So you're welcome to do that. That is, of course, part of step one. So once you're done with your step one, I would say moving on to step two is to think about, okay, well, this is not, I don't know why this is not. That's okay. All right, so step two. Step two to me would be going after the conclusion. So now that you have collected all this evidence, what does it mean? When we put all of these together, what does it mean, right? So as you have probably learned before, you're supposed to reiterate your argument in your conclusion. So you're really making your argument right here, right? You started with an idea in the beginning, right? Because you have collected some evidence that support or refuse something, but when you put them together, that might change. The look of that might change, or you start to get new ideas. So by the time that you're done with this work, you probably have some sort of a conclusion in mind. And that is really your argument as well. So once you conclude your work here and you're like, okay, I put all these evidence together, I analyzed everything, and here's what I've concluded, right? There you go. Now you're ready to go to step three, which is the overview, or your, introduction, or your argument, your thesis statement, right? So that's how I do it. But if you think it's easier for you and you have, the confidence to go at it from the top, that's totally okay. And you can start with step three, go to step two, go to step one, and then finally get to step two. So this is a little bit of a hack for me, but you're welcome to go with whatever logical order things that makes sense to you. As to format your paper, you don't really have to worry about that. This is not about examining your ability to format things. It's about your critical take, right? So the most important thing about this paper is really being able to have a critical look at a film. So you wouldn't want to spend too much time worrying about the formatting of the paper, but obviously because you are talking about different scenes, different moments in the movie, you would need to cite them. And I have the resources that you would need to be able to do that in the resources part, the resources module on Brightspace. All right. And don't forget, I'm always an email away, so you can email me, ask me all types of questions, meet me in my office hours, and we can figure things out that way as well. All right, good luck.